Well, it's fitting that Easter Sunday is this weekend because it'll take an act of God for Spieth to win this tournament. Welcome to Center Cup. I'm Kyle Muserino, joined as always by Will Neary and Nick Newmeyer, and it is preview day today. We will get into who we like this week in the Valero Texas Open at TPC San Antonio. We'll also look at the LPGA ARA MCO Championship at Shadow Creek in Las Vegas, as well as the Korn Ferry Tour Suncoast Classic at Lakewood National Golf Club in Florida. And we will also take a sneak peek at the Augusta National Women's Amateur. But first, let's start with a little Tiger Woods update. We got some new info. Nick, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the official affidavit from the Martin County Sheriff's Office was released this morning, which details the officer's experience throughout the arrest. And so it was more so noting Tiger's condition during the arrest. And so the officers reported that Tiger was sweating profusely when they had arrested him. They found two hydrocodone pills in his pocket. Tiger said that he was changing the radio station and or looking at his phone, like an incoming phone call, and that's why he didn't see the truck in front of him. When the officer asked him to perform a field sobriety test, Tiger said that he wasn't drinking but did admit to taking prescription pain meds. He had said that when they asked if there was anything he should know about in terms of the field sobriety test, Tiger had mentioned that he has a limp due to his previous injuries and that his ankle seizes when he walks. And so it was just complications with field sobriety. But the one thing that they mentioned as well is A, he was sweating profusely, and B, he had the hiccups throughout the entire interview, which is kind of funny to have in an official affidavit, but they described his condition as lethargic through the entire encounter, and that when they asked him to remove his sunglasses, his eyes were completely bloodshot. And so that's, I guess, just more of a peek behind the curtain of what happened throughout that arrest. And as of now, he's still listed in the field for the Masters, and he has not stopped practicing even after this. He's still ramping up. He's still trying to compete. But we just don't know what's going to happen at this point. So I guess we'll just wait and see for next week.
Yeah, I mean, tough to make any prediction on that, but I'm sure we'll keep updating that story as it goes, and I'm sure more details will come out as it goes as well. Okay, let's hop into the action we've got this week. Some tournament notes and storylines ahead of the Valero Texas Open. Will, what you got?
Yeah, I think the Valero Texas Open is always a fun tournament, and it plays into the fact that it is right before the Masters, I think, which is good as it should. The field is different year to year. A lot of it depends on guys but it really it's not the Masters' little brother. That's the wrong way to put it, but it is the tournament right before the Masters, and it knows it, and I think that's fine. Um, it's fun, and again, this year we should have some action around the cut line for the Masters. Obviously, there's a lot of guys that can get into the Masters with a win. I mean, that opens the door for pretty much everybody. I saw in the stuff that they put up on the PGA Tour media website for the Valero, which I think was prior to a couple of the withdrawals, like the Colin Morikawa withdrawals. This number might be a little bit different. When I saw it, I believe it said that 24 of the roughly 130 players in the field were already exempt into the Masters. I think with Colin dropping out, that's probably now 23. I saw David Lipsky also just withdrew. I don't think he's in the Masters, but go Northwestern grad, shout out the Cats. But yeah, there's a lot. I mean, what is that? 100 of the 130, 135 of the, or 105 of the 130 or so can get into the Masters with a win this week. And there are some guys hovering around the bubble of the top 50 in OWGR that we'll talk about. They include Michael Thorbjornsen, Rio Satsune, and Ricky Fowler are really the names to watch there. But yeah, it's it's a warm-up tournament is the wrong word. I don't want to take credit away from the Valero because it is in and of itself a very exciting tournament. It has produced some really, really great weekends, some great champions. I know, obviously, 2021 Jordan Spieth, but a couple years ago, the Akshay Bhatia playoff was super exciting. Obviously, Akshay got into the Masters with that win. The JJ Spawn win in 2022. The Corey Connors has won here twice. And three of the last six champions did qualify for the Masters with that win. Um, it's a good tournament, and it has some interesting course fit stuff that we can get into. It was kind of hard for me to profile. I feel like this was another one. There have been a couple this year that, like, looking at trying to pick guys and nail down a couple. There really were only a couple that stood out to me, and one of them will make Nick very, very happy. And I'm sure he'll talk plenty about that. But no, I think it's a fun. A lot of the profile of this tournament revolves around it being the week before the Masters, but that doesn't mean that we won't get a really good individual tournament separate from that.
I love when you talk tournament profiles. Nick, what else you got?
I mean, I think this is the week, guys. I really do. I
We're
think
jumping right into it,
we're just
just
jumping
straight to the point.
straight into it.
Here we go.
Nothing else is relevant. Come Monday, we will be celebrating a Jordan Spieth win in 2026. I firmly believe. I definitely think, the last time we saw Spieth in action was at the Valspar, where, if I'm being honest, he was one of the best players in the field on just pure, I don't want to say talent, but in terms of pure stats, he was one of the best players in the field. I think he had more birdies than Matt Fitzpatrick, who ended up winning the tournament. He just unfortunately ran himself into a few unfortunate bogeys, unfortunate double bogeys, kind of threw himself out of competition. But he was one of the better players in the field and just couldn't put together four straight rounds. But this is a tournament where he's played very well. He plays very well as a native Texan in the state of Texas. He's someone that has really good course history at the Valero Texas Open. Obviously, won in 2021 to kind of snap that super long winless drought, and we're nearing another very long winless drought with his last win coming almost 4 years ago again in 2022. And I think what really makes him stand out is the fact that off the tee is not a massive defactor in the course setup this week. I personally don't think off the tee he's been horrible. He's not like completely. I think he's really eliminated. Like, he's still prone to like he'll like tug it left every now and then, but I don't think there's those like giant like massive slices that he sort of had towards the beginning of the season. I think he's kind of worked those out a little bit. I think what's really big is the approach play. Spieth is top five in the field of approach inside of 125 yards. This course really emphasizes around the green play as well, and obviously Spieth is one of the best players around the green in terms of just overall short game. He's just a magician, as we've known for years. And so overall, this course is one of the better fits that Spieth has on the tour. And I just want to make one last observation that the last time that this event was played on Easter Sunday was 2021. So the Easter Bunny will be back in the field this week, and I'm thinking that, Jordan can, there was a time where, 2021 Valero Easter Sunday he won, 2022 RBC also Easter Sunday he won. So
Wow.
you can't count out Jordan Spieth on Easter. So that's what we're rolling with this week.
Yeah, well, first, first, I do want to say, I actually, we were talking about this off when we were not recording, but this is one of the few times that I'm like actually on board with this. I'm hopping on the bandwagon for 1 week and 1 week only. I won't be picking him, but he is like the guy who fits the course the best. He's the guy with in the field with like the best balance of course history and course fit. Nick, kind of you talked about it a little bit. Just generally with this course fit, it does not emphasize off the tee at all. If anything, it emphasizes accuracy, but really like off the tee at least in comparison to other PGA Tour courses, it's not at all as much of a factor. it really does emphasize that approach play within 125 yards, and then the around the green play. And putting also hasn't been a huge factor. I think in 7 of the last 8 tournaments, the winner was within the top five in strokes gained approach. And in 4 of those years, they led the field, and in 2 other years, they were second. So in 6 of those 8 years, it was either first or second. The Yeah, it was funny also the one year where you can see prioritizes bombers versus prioritizes accuracy. The one year where it didn't prioritize accuracy was Spieth's win. And maybe that's because he's the magician that we know and love. But you brought up something to jump backwards a little bit. You brought up something, and I remember seeing this online or on Instagram or something, and I feel like I had a different reaction to it than was intended. I mean, the statistic that he had more birdies at the Valspar than Matt Fitzpatrick, I feel like I was like, yeah, I mean that makes sense. He also had more double bogeys than Matt Fitzpatrick and lost by like 5 shot. Like I don't know. It's a funny statistic, and it's true. Like it's like yeah, the upside is there, but I feel like that's always been the case. The upside has never been the issue with Jordan Spieth. It's like when can we just need to get rid of the bad stuff. Um, so I don't know. I think that statistic is very funny. Like it is very true, and it does ring true that like if he could get rid of that stuff, like let's get rid of it. But I remember that being posted on Instagram by either the PGA Tour or something, and like as if it was like big headline like Jordan Spieth birdies like six like whatever it was, Matt Fitzpatrick two less or something like that. And I was like, yeah, I mean that sure, yeah, that makes he probably does that like in most tournaments. I don't know. That didn't seem
We
like that
take what
rare
we
of a
can
feat.
get.
Yeah, I guess you'll take the head. Any publicity is good publicity, right? Um, but yeah, no, I mean, look, Jordan's, I mean, like you said, Nick, he won here in 2021. He also had a solo second in 2015. Obviously, that was a long time ago, but a T12 and a T10 in his last 2 years here. So, like, I wish I had a lot of ground to stand on and be like, hey, man, Jordan Spieth is not the guy this week. But unfortunately, I won't be picking him. I wouldn't take that from you, Nick. But he is, he's one of the guys that stood out when I was putting this all together as somebody who should be by all intents, like everything points to the fact that Jordan Spieth should have a good week this week, which take with that, like maybe that means he won't, who knows? But everything seems to say that he should. So it'll be interesting to see if he can actually pull it off.
Yeah, I think we've officially moved on from the Homer standpoint and the fact that this is like the statistics are for once actually on my side this week.
The Homer will
And
be back next week. The Homer
oh
will
yeah,
be very back next week.
100%. Do you know where he's playing next week? Are you kidding me?
No, I can't quite remember.
It's shade of
Small
green,
course down in Georgia.
Yeah, Jordan looks really good in green. I'm just gonna say that. But just as long as he avoids, some creeks. But I think
It,
what really makes him interesting to watch is that I personally think he's playing some of the best golf he's played in years. That's really not saying much if I'm being honest, but just seeing where the stats are right now and just seeing the shots he's hitting, the putter has almost reawakened from the dead after the last 2 years, and just seeing where he's at, I think where this is really, I mentioned it the last time. I think when I picked Spieth at the Val's, oh my God, is this going to be back-to-back picks of Spieth? Wow, this is interesting. But when I was originally excited for Spieth at the
No,
Valspar, I think
you
where I
had
was,
got her up at the Texas Children's. Don't worry.
that's right,
There
that's
was there
right.
was a break in there.
Okay, good. I was going to say that
You're not
that'd be a bit
entirely crazy.
right, just a little bit. But where
Had
I
he played at
think
the Valspar, though, it would be 3 weeks in a row. Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
where I think I was really excited at the Valspar was I saw all the data saying he was having those shots and was really just putting together some good stretches of holes, but he's never really put together 4 straight rounds to be in contention on a Sunday. And honestly, he kind of had like a little mini Sunday surge and ultimately ended up being, I think, within 3 shots of the lead. And had he performed better on Sunday or even Saturday, probably would have been in contention to win. But I think that's where, you know, I'm iffy on Spieth for the I know it's probably early to talk about the Masters, but I
Never.
forget who it was, but he posted the fact that I think 12 of the last 14 major winners had like this strokes gained before the Masters week, and Spieth was not on that list. So I think what's really separating him from being a firm contender for the Masters is he has not been in contention once. He's had good tournaments, but he has yet to be in contention. And so I think that would be that's what I want to see this week. And I think that would be where he can shine if he can display that he's able to be in contention and put together eight and not even 72, just 18 holes without like one little careless mistake that sort of derails everything. And so I'm interested this week, to put it plainly.
Well, it's fitting that Easter Sunday is this weekend because it'll take an act of God for Spieth to win this tournament.
I love it.
Who
That's
else do
the
you like,
intro right
Will?
there.
Anybody who else do you think kind of fits the mold of this course and guys you're looking
Yeah.
at?
It's a weird. So I think part of the reason I struggled like actually picking guys I really liked here is because the overlap between like guys who have played well here and guys who theoretically fit this course is not that huge, let alone like guys who are playing well.
Mm,
Um, like for example, we'll start there. Like Nick Taylor theoretically fits this quite well. He's really good in approach inside 125 yards, but he just like has not looked good this year. And luckily, like it's his driving and his putting that have weighed him down a lot, which obviously, like we talked about, are not the biggest things here. But
yes,
still, I'm not gonna
it's
like,
only your driving and putting.
yeah, it's only what does that account for? Like, God, I don't know, like 85% of the shots you take on a golf course.
Like
That's about it.
he can't shoot or dribble, but he's a good player.
Boy, just
Great
look at
locker
the
room
vision. The
guy.
court vision is elite.
Yeah.
No, man, it's yeah, exactly. But that's like my point. Is like in theory, he
Yeah.
gets the biggest boost here because those are the parts of his game that are bad and they're not that important here, but they're still so important to golf that it's like I can't look at that and be like, yeah, okay, like Nick Taylor, I expect you to go from like, what I forget exactly what he's been doing, but it's been like, some T30s, I think, if I remember right, in his most recent performances. I missed the cut at the Valspar, T42 at the Players, T38 at the Arnold Palmer, T28 at the Genesis. Like I don't expect that to turn around just because this course fits him fairly well. So there's a couple guys like that, but some guys that I do like. I'll talk a little bit about Ludwig Oberg. I mean, this honestly is kind of more about the fact that I just think Ludwig Oberg is like one of the best players in this field. He's really like he fits in that he's really good inside of 125 yards. He's good around the green, but he's just really good everywhere. And it feels like, I mean, it hasn't been that long since he's won, like he won last year, but it just feels like we're due. And like imagine the talk next week if we're coming in off a Ludwig Oberg win at the Valero. He's walking up to the Masters. He always plays well at the Masters. He's at the top of his game. It's going to be hard not to pick him next week if he does walk away with a win here. But I really like it. I mean, I think you'd be really hard pressed to convince me that he won't be in the top 10. Like, I think that's just it. It's
Yeah.
the way he plays golf, like how far he hits the ball. And I know we've talked about how driver distance doesn't matter, but again, like if you're hitting the ball in the center of the fairway, 330 yards, believe it or not, that helps. Like, unfortunately, that's just how golf works. That's a good thing. So
And
he
this
is
will
one of the
be
guys that I'm watching this week.
Yeah, and this
Go
will
ahead,
be
Nick.
his first appearance since his collapse at the Players. So
Yes.
we'll get to see the response from him as well.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll have another mention of the players collapse in a bit with a different guy, but I'll get there. Unfortunately, he doesn't have great course history here. He's had three starts here, I believe, and two missed cuts. He does have a T14 and 24. I don't care. Honestly, don't care. I think it doesn't matter to me right now. There's not enough guys that have great course history here for me to use that as a reason to cross him off the list. I'm going to be picking Ludwig Oberg. His around the green play has improved recently. Obviously, like we've talked about, he's really good in all facets of the game, pretty much. Sometimes you see that putting lack a little bit, but that doesn't matter as much this week. So, or theoretically doesn't matter as much this week. I'm again, more of a feel play, but I really do like him. And another guy to mention is Russell Henley. That's kind of another. There's not that many guys near the like tippy top of OWGR here. I mean, you've got Russell Henley and I believe Tommy Fleetwood are the two in the top 10 in OWGR that are here. Then you have a couple guys in the teens like Robert McIntyre, Sepp Straka, JJ Spawn, Hideki Matsuyama, Ludwig Oberg, Alex Noren, et cetera, et cetera. But Russell Henley's another guy to watch. I mean, like we said, the thing that kind of holds him back is distance off the tee. But when that doesn't matter, like here, he's one of the best players in the world, and we know that. And he doesn't have much course history here. He's only started here once, and that was 2 years ago, and he finished solo fourth. So all intent, like all the reasoning points to, he's a really good player, one of the best in the field, and his one weakness that we've seen that can be exploited at some courses is not going to be exploited here. So he's definitely another guy to watch for sure.
Can I just mention as well, you mentioned Tommy Fleetwood, and I think we received a big Tommy Fleetwood news
Oh,
drop this
we
week.
did.
Is he has a hat sponsor, ladies and gentlemen. He is
Yeah. Did you see the PGA Tour Instagram post about that?
no, I did not.
They posted something of like a slideshow of all the hats that he's worn, like the
Yeah.
Pebble Beach golf links, whatever it was. And they didn't, they all they said was in the caption, "We're gonna miss this rotation of hats." Which lucky for me, I know I'm like a little obsessed with golf enough to know what they were talking about, but all the comments were like, "I thought he died. Like I thought he retired. Like what
That's
happened to
funny.
Tommy Fleetwood?" I thought this was an in memoriam post. And I was like, thank God I'm like tapped in with golf enough not to have thought that, because that would have sent me for a, a little bit of a loop. Luckily, Tommy is still with us and is in the field this week and will be wearing. I don't think they said did they say who the new hat sponsor
It's
is, Nick? Do you know?
It's
Blackstone,
yeah, it's
It's
Blackstone,
which
Blackstone.
is
which
Okay.
is
just
He should
an
go
investment
back.
company. Yeah, just
yeah,
soulless.
I'm
It
I'm not
sucks.
well, okay. Let's not hate on investment banking here, but
yet another victim of private equity.
Oh, jeez.
but yeah, that's what is Patrick Cantley's got something like that or used to have something like that. But
Goldman.
yeah, he had the Goldman Sachs sponsorship. But good for Tommy. I'm sure he's getting a bucket of money to put that on the
Yeah.
hat. So I
It's
will
not an
miss
apparel
the
sponsor though. It's
that's
only
true.
the hat. So
Okay.
he could still
He can
wear
auction off any
a
other part of his body he wants
Yeah.
to.
He can still go into the pro shop and wear
to just
a TPC San Antonio shirt.
Yeah.
exactly.
Perfect. Thank God. I was worried. I was like, man, what's he gonna do? Yeah, I don't know. There's a couple other guys I can list off, but if you guys want to jump in and talk about anybody in particular other than Jordan Spieth, feel free. Otherwise, I'm gonna just run with it.
Yeah, I want to hear about Suitor Sean.
Sudarshan, yeah. I mean, look, it still we talked about it when we recorded in our episode on Monday. Came out, on Monday, go listen to it. But he's playing great. We talked about the T5 of the players, a T6 last week. He's not great around the greens. That's kind of like the one drawback that we're gonna see here. But we said this the other day, like you could probably count on one hand the amount of golfers on the planet playing hotter golf than Sudarshan Yelmarahu. Like, I mean, again, we'll see how sustainable this all is. Like none of us knew his name prior to the Players Championship, which was what, 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess 3 weeks ago. But nonetheless, like it drives the ball great. He's good at approach. He like fits the profile from that perspective. The one part he doesn't fit is the around the green play. But again, like this isn't the strongest field in the world. We just talked through the guys in the top 20. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if he's kind of up there. I mean, I wouldn't be betting on him to win or anything like that. I mean, I'm actually curious what the odds are on for Sudarshan at this point. I have to imagine they're still fairly long, despite the fact that he's not established is the wrong word. Yeah, he's 6,800, right around Tony Finau and defending champion Brian Harmon, actually.
Mm.
So, not long odds, but for a guy who's been in the top six both of his last two PGA Tour starts, including the Players Championship, it's hard not to say you should definitely keep an eye out for him. But I don't have a ton more than that, other than the fact that he theoretically fits this profile.
Just a cool story. So,
It
I
is a
mean,
cool
just
story. I hope it
somebody who
continues.
like, like you said, wouldn't be surprised if you see him up towards the leaderboard. And if he is, it's going to be the talk of the weekend and would be odd. Like, imagine he wins and gets to play in the Masters. That'd be
Yeah,
That would be
awesome.
awesome.
man. Yeah,
Be
that would
awesome.
be the dream. Like if there was one guy I wanted to like who needs an outright win, like obviously we'll talk about some of the guys that can get, positioning with OWGR or whatever, but if there's a guy who just like has no shot unless he wins, man, I would love to see Sudarshan Yelmara who just tee it up at Augusta, Georgia in Augusta, Georgia. That would
Yeah.
be a blast.
It's like amazing story. I'm very much looking forward to seeing him. Um, One, I know you mentioned some people that were sort of Augusta hopefuls. What do we think of Ricky Fowler? I know I said the same thing last week, but what do we think he can do?
Like, man, if it wasn't here, I'd love to be like really confident in Ricky Fowler. I'm more like so to go through the Masters hopefuls. I'll do a whole thing about Michael Thorbjornsen in a second because that's going to be my prove me wrong guy. Spoiler alert! I've got a whole bit to go through. The other ones are Rio Hisatsune, who's at 64th no WGR, and Ricky Fowler's at 65th. I have more confidence in Rio Hisatsune doing something. I actually had no
Hmm.
idea he was T5 last year here at the Valero. Rio Hisatsune was. They both likely need like a top four finish to make this work out to get themselves into that top 50. Um, but yeah, I mean, Ricky, he's coming off his worst approach performance at the Texas Children's Houston Open, but I'm not going to say his approach play is gone. He's gained strokes in every other event, and frankly, putting strokes gained to the side, he's looked really good in approach this whole year. So I'm not going to be taking one event where it hurt him a little bit to call that not the case. His around the green play has been pretty erratic. I mean, he's got a top 10 here in 2023, two other top 20s and six starts, but they came a while ago. His recent performances here haven't been great. I wish I felt like Ricky was the type of guy that would step up and just like know he needs a top four and get it. It doesn't feel that likely to me. I wish I thought he could do it. But if I had to pick in terms of like if you were making me bet on one guy to finish top five, Rio Hisatsune or Ricky Fowler, I'd probably be picking Rio Hisatsune just
Fair
between those
enough.
two. I wouldn't be doing it with a lot of confidence. And I struggle to have a ton of faith in either one of them, but I mean, man, I would love to see Ricky next week. That's another
It's
guy that like,
You just wish
dude,
he
it
would
was
have played
so
better
good.
last week. Like
Or
just
Right.
played at the
Yeah.
Valspar at all. Like I
yeah.
just teed it up at the Valspar.
Uh,
Um, yeah, it sucks to put yourself in a position where, you pretty much need a win. Like we said, top four. You need to be in contention on Sunday in order to get yourself into this tournament in next week. So I don't know, Nick, what do you think? I don't have a ton of confidence in it. I would love to see it happen. You never know. He hits the ball decently, like he's decent off the tee, decent and like good in approach. Typically, it's just if whether or not he has a good week around the greens, kind of. But I struggle
Yeah.
to see it.
And I think obviously around the greens is probably where he is his weakest, just in his overall makeup. I'm looking at his just data golf page, and it's just an ugly two strokes lost on approach. It just feels like an anomaly, something that
Yeah, I agree.
it could either break his confidence or something that he can just like brush off as this was an anomaly and just completely move on. I don't know. I'll say the same thing that I said last week, where I could see him in the mix for a top five. Like it's something I could definitely picture, but if you were to ask me to put money on it, I wouldn't. And that's exactly what I said
Right.
last week, and that was probably the smart move. So I don't know. I don't know. I think it would be nice to see Ricky playing at Augusta, but I wouldn't count on it this year.
No, I mean the odds are would agree with you. It's probably I don't know. I can't translate odds to percentages off the top of my head, but I got to think it's like a 8% chance or whatever that he finds himself in that top five, right? Like
Yeah,
maybe a 10% chance, something like that. Um, I jump into the last Masters hopeful, go through my Michael Thorbjornsen bit a little bit?
absolutely.
yeah.
Okay. This isn't a typical prove me wrong in the sense that like, when I did my obviously last week doesn't count because that was a prove me right. But when I did my JJ Spawn prove me wrong, it was like, man, I need to see anything out of you. That's not really the case with Michael Thorbjornsen because I have full faith that Michael Thorbjornsen is going to win on the PGA Tour, is going to have a great career. He's a great golfer. I'm not like let's put that to the side, recognize that I know he's great. I need to see him like step up when the pressure's on because I knew he hadn't done it a couple times. I went back through his tournaments. It's a lot more than I kind of even realized. To go through it, like WM Phoenix Open, we talked about this on Monday. He held the lead over Hideki after he eagled the par 5 15th to get that lead. And, maybe you could say, well, look at that. Will he performed when the pressure was on? And then he bogeyed 16 and 17. And you can chalk that up to he's a young guy. Those are tough holes. 16, especially you're in that stadium par three at TPC Scottsdale. It's got to be a ton of pressure. I mean, it's a short hole, but when you're standing there in that stadium, it looks like it's 250 yards. And then the par four 17th, you just can't miss it left. Maybe you don't know that as well, but it's the fourth round you played there, so you should know that. Um, and you're in contention, like maybe don't try to drive the green, whatever. Um, he took bogey on both those holes, pretty much took himself out of the equation. Arnold Palmer Invitational. He wasn't in position to win that week, but he was at T15 after 3 rounds and he was heading for a good finish. Shot a final round 75 and finished in T33. Not terrible considering the fact that it's Arnold Palmer's hard. There were big numbers out there. He wasn't the only guy to shoot big numbers. I get that. But nonetheless, round four seems to kind of eat him up a little bit when he's in good position. The Players' Championship, solo second, 3 shots back of Ludwig Oberg. And this is what I was talking about. We're talking about Ludwig Oberg's collapse. He and Michael Thorbjornsen entered the final round on Sunday, just 3 shots back, and quadruple bogeyed the fourth hole to just, full on eject himself from that one. He was immediately out of it. Obviously, Ludwig Oberg didn't perform that much better, but he did not quadruple bogey the fourth hole. And he followed up that quadruple with a bogey on the fifth, too. So that was another really bad one. And then we talked about this obviously on Monday as well, the Texas Children's Houston Open. He had the opportunity to get himself into a qualifying position for the Masters, entered the final round in T3, shot a 2 over 72 on a day where the average score was almost one under par. So he was 3 shots worse than average, where he had performed well better than average for the entire tournament. And he fell back to T14. And also outside of the OWGR cut line for the Masters, only jumped up 2 spots to 54th, which is why we're even talking about him. Like if he had just, you know, stepped on the gas a little bit, stayed at T3. I mean, like we said, T3 wasn't in contention, but if you shoot, Nikolai Højgaard fell back to the field. If he came in and shot 3 under, he might have been able to log a solo second with the way Højgaard played, or at least just stay steady and get that third place. But instead, we have to talk about him as having to fight. He probably would have withdrawn from this tournament, but instead, he has to fight his way in. In terms of his fit here, like not great. It's decent. He's obviously really good off the tee, which isn't the like helps at all courses, but isn't the thing that like really changes things here, decides things at TPC San Antonio. He's a little above average in approach and around the green, but nothing really pops off the page there. And he struggles a little bit in his approach play from the rough, which take that, do it that way you will. If you're accurate off the tee, that doesn't matter. So he did miss a cut here in one start last year, but to put that all into like one thing is I like when the pressure is going to be on him again, and I have full faith that eventually he will succeed. I kind of am pretty confident that after 3 rounds, he's going to be somewhere around that top 10 number, and he's going to need a Sunday finish to get himself into that top, or to even stay in top 10. I think when I try to do the math here, he really only needs like a top 12 in theory. Obviously, this is all dependent on what other people do. But in theory, like a top 10 finish should get him into the Masters, into that top 50. And I kind of feel like we're going to be sitting here on Sunday and he's going to be T8, T10, T11, T12, and he's going to need to put together a 67, a 68 on Sunday to really like shut the door, nail that thing shut and just be like, I'm in the Masters, I'm comfortable, all's well. And he hasn't shown that he can do it yet. And I kind of didn't even realize like the extent to which he's shown that he can't do it. But I would really, it's, he's really young. He's going to do it eventually. But man, to be able to list 4 iterations of, or 4 individual instances in which he collapsed is the wrong word in some of those instances, but really fell back when he had an opportunity to prove himself is not necessarily promising when he's absolutely going to be under a ton of pressure trying to make the Masters this week.
So not quite a prove me wrong guy, not a prove me right guy, but a new category. You got to step up, Michael.
Just yeah,
A new
yeah. Come
a
on, Michael.
new will category. You got to
Just
step
like me
up.
gripping his shoulders and shaking. Like, come on, come on. I know he's got it in him. It's
Yeah,
somewhere.
I mean, he's a good golfer for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
four, I'd say four as a quantity, it definitely has varying degrees of how concerning that is. 4 strokes on a hole, that's par. 4 cats owned, mildly concerning. 4 collapses, then we really got to start asking questions. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, especially there's 3 instances where I guess 2 because he was never going to win the Texas Children's with the way Gary Woodland separated himself. But the players in the WM, he was squarely in contention to win those things. He probably, if you looked at odds to knock off a win there after his eagle on 15 at WM and the start of the fourth round at the players, like you'd expect him to take one of those, or maybe 0.8 wins out of those two tournaments, right? And he pretty much ejected himself quite quickly once
Yeah.
he was in position in both those instances. So he'll do it eventually. I would just love it to be this week. Kind of the same thing I talked about with Nikolai Højgaard last week. Like I would love him to step up immediately after claim him as a Cinderella when he needs to make the cut at the Masters when he's in 47th position in OWGR, and he did it. So maybe Michael Thorbjornsen, can take example from that. Hopefully.
Any other guys as you're looking at the odds boards? I know, I kind of have my eye on Hideki, who started off playing really well. He's one of the best players in this field. Just hasn't had a good stretch recently. But we know he's a really good golfer. He's one guy I was kind of looking at. Siwoo's here, Robert McIntyre, who's played, kind of well this year. Mav McNeely has played well. Any other guys to you jump out?
I agree with all of those. I mean, I think Hideki was the one that I also was like looking at as like you said, he hasn't been playing fantastic recently. He's coming off his three worst finishes. I think it was a T27 at the Players, T41 at the Arnold Palmer, T28 at the Genesis.
Yeah.
But Hideki can just knock one of these out, and it feels like he might as well. Like he's obviously one of the best iron players in the world. Like full stop. That will not change this year. That will not change next year. Um, so he's played well here. T7 in 2024, T15 in 2023. Did miss the cut last year though. So I don't know. He could easily turn it on and win this whole thing, or he could miss the cut. But I did think about that one long and hard. I do like Hideki this week as well. I don't really know what to do with Bobby McIntyre. I think maybe that's just a blind spot for me. He is awesome. I actually really like Bobby McIntyre, but it's just like all courses seem to not not fit him, but also not fit him. He's kind of, like I mean, obviously we saw the Genesis Scottish Open, like he loves playing links golf, but
Yeah.
at least American courses, I'm always like,
He's
he
just
could.
he's just not someone like people I think about,
Yeah,
especially as a casual golf fan. You don't think about him, but here he is in some of these tournaments. He's just ends up playing really well and is there, whether it's on Friday or Saturday, and then, doesn't quite do it. But, he was in contention at the Players. He's got the fourth best odds, which, it's
I
just
know.
kind of like surprising when you look at it. You're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
he's
He's
playing,
right
he's
there with
there.
like Russell Henley behind only Tommy Fleetwood and Ludwig Oberg, ahead of
Yeah.
Jordan Spieth, ahead of Siwoo Kim, ahead of Hideki, ahead of Maverick McNeely. There's like he's a very, very like legit golfer. And I feel like I definitely don't give him, the grace that he probably deserves at the average tournament like this at the Valero and things like this.
Yeah, certainly
Nick.
someone that
Yeah.
I think, speaking of, Bobby Mack, I remember reading, I think it was the Sony when he was, I want to say the sixth ranked golfer in the world. And I think everybody was saying like, he hasn't won. He's kind of just played like just well enough to like be the sixth ranked golfer in the world. But, if you were to ask like who are your top six golfers, nobody's gonna say Robert McIntyre. And so I think it's one
Sure.
of
Right.
those where he's been a sneaky good golfer, but the results haven't just been there for him. So I'm interested to see what he can do, like especially heading into I know like he's always someone that is has to be on your boards for the Open Championship and obviously the Scottish Open as well. But just, he's got to get it done in America, I think. We
Yeah.
said the same. We said the same thing with Matt Fitzpatrick. Like, there's this overall sense of if it hasn't happened in America, it hasn't happened at all. And I think definitely need to start seeing some results on the PGA Tour for Robert McIntyre as well.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm looking through it. I think just his two PGA Tour wins are the Genesis Scottish Open and the RBC Canadian Open. So he's won two international opens, but nothing in the United States. Obviously, he's won on the DP World Tour, I think, three times, including the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship in October. But yeah, I think as far as I'm aware, no
Why?
professional
That's
wins in the
it's
United
just
States.
I just it's so why does he have the fourth best odds? I don't
Because
understand.
he fourth place solo with the players. Yeah, he's really good, man. I don't know. I think he's one of those golfers that'll be really tough to like. I don't know. I imagine I'm not going to speak for the betting books, but he's one of those guys that like I'd be more than comfortable taking him for like a top 10, but like is anybody really going to press on him to win at plus 1750 like in that field with Russell Henley, Jordan Spieth, Ludwig Oberg, Siwoo Kim? Like I have
Well,
to
that's
imagine
why
he's getting less action there, but
yeah, that's why
they
it's
got to give
even
him some odds, right? Like
I mean, that's what makes it more surprising to me, though, because I always, think about, the books aren't necessarily 100% reflection of the order of they think who's going to win.
right.
It's you're going to get more action on guys like Jordan
Right, if
Spieth
they
and
give him a
Ricky
little longer
Fowler.
odds.
It's
Right.
like you never bet on the Lakers or the Cowboys because you're never getting like true odds for them. And
Yeah,
that's, I think about that with kind of like Spieth and Ricky Fowler and stuff. It's like there's no point because those odds don't actually reflect.
right.
That's just what makes it, you'd think Robert McIntyre would have longer odds because
Yeah, they're
who is
trying to get a
betting
little
on
money in
Robert?
on there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
and then one last question here, we talked about Rio a little bit. Do you guys think like picking somebody to win for a week like this are you like more motivated to pick somebody who needs to finish well to qualify for the Masters relative to like a guy who has a better course fit or something like that?
It depends on the person. I feel like for me, Rio Satsune, like I was kind of saying between when I was talking about Rio Satsune and Ricky Fowler, like they kind of both stand on different sides of that for me. Like Rio Satsune, I do kind of, I don't know why. Maybe it's just his attitude, like pure vibes, like feels like he might be able to step up under the gun and like be like, no, this is like, I got to give this all I got.
Hmm.
Um, and he like especially like his approach play kind of is weighted towards long irons. Like he's a guy that's we saw him do it. God, where was it? I don't know. Earlier this year, just like fire at pins, kind of the same way Hideki does when he gets really hot with the irons. Like he just doesn't matter where that pin is. Like I'm gonna hit it high, land it soft next to that pin, and I'm gonna give myself a bunch of birdie looks. Ricky just doesn't like it. It feels purely like a vibes slash attitude thing to me. Like so for Rio, I guess to answer your question, for Rio, I would be like, yeah, I think I would probably give him a little bit more. I'm a little bit more confident in his level of performance this week because he's under the gun and needs to do something. Whereas Ricky, I'm like, I don't feel like maybe I'm not giving Ricky enough credit, but he doesn't
Well,
strike me as having like the juice that, like as being as like motivated, as inspired. And part of that is also Rio Satsune's 23, right?
I was just about to say it's
Yeah,
like
that's
one guy
true.
entering his prime versus another
Exactly.
guy past his prime kind of thing
Yeah.
too.
Which, Ricky will forever, unfortunately, be heralded as somebody who hasn't won a major, like one of the best players not to win a major, right? Or at
Yeah.
least one of the best peaks not to win a major. But so I imagine he has a lot of motivation surrounding that. But for some reason, it doesn't strike me as the same type of like response to that pressure that somebody like Rio Satsune might have. And maybe I'm giving too much credit in one direction, too little in another, but that's kind of just like the gut feeling I get.
Yeah, I think there's two ways you can approach that pressure is saying like, oh my God, I need to get a good result in order to qualify for the Masters. I'm gonna fire at every single pin. Or on the flip side, just kind of letting things come to you and just not trying to force anything. And I think those two strategies have a varying effect of results. And so I think it'll be interesting to see who is capable of withstanding that pressure and who is not. And that's why I think like that's I've said before what makes Augusta so special is that it doesn't discriminate and it just takes out anybody that it so chooses. And
Yeah.
you either can handle the pressure or you can't. And it's very apparent early on who can handle it and who can't. And so I think that's going to probably be the same this week. Is it's not about it's just going to be more about who can handle the pressure and not letting where you're going to be playing next week sort of affect you.
Yeah, I think just to add on a little bit, like we talked about the guys who like need to get into it, the Masters through OWGR, but looking at like the other issue is I do think that there's going to be some guys that know that they need to win this week no matter what and use that motivation to get themselves towards the top of the leaderboard. It's just like trying to, you know, pick the right one of 105 guys who need that win.
Sure.
You're not like looking at it that way. I'm like, it's just tough to really try to isolate those guys. I mean, there are a couple other guys with longer odds that I liked, like Thorbjorn Olesen. I like here. He's got two good finishes in his last two starts here, or his only two starts here in the last 2 years. Um, but other guys like that I liked, like Johnny Kiefer. Johnny Kiefer's already in the Masters, so he doesn't need to worry. Which honestly might like that might make me a little less inclined, even though he's coming off a great week at the Texas Children's Houston Open, like his best week on the PGA Tour. So there's all sorts of stuff. It's really tough to try to, isolate that one guy that you think is going to take that like of one guy in 100 that's going to take the motivation that knowing that he needs to win no matter what to get himself into the Masters and actually bring that to fruition and like use that as fuel to get there. Like it's so hard to try to pick that out because honestly at that point you can kind of throw the course fit stuff out the window because that's all like not to get too like emotional with it, but like that's all like kind of guts, right? Like if you're able to do that, like I don't if you're telling me that a guy can use having needing to win to get into the Masters as fuel to win, then I'm throwing the course fit, I'm throwing like recent performance out the window. So
Yeah.
that just makes it even harder to try to like find that guy that's going to have that mindset.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I think the
Um,
mindset this week is, do you want to finish second to Jordan Spieth or do you not? And who's built for it? I think, but just a funny little tidbit that you just made me think of by mentioning Johnny Kiefer. Did you guys see that? So he will be at Augusta, as you said, but did you see the Masters did not want to call him Johnny and have him listed as John Kiefer on their website?
Really?
really
Yeah,
It's
they're like,
always
we're
funny.
not.
lame.
Yeah, I have a I have this like spreadsheet thing that I do, and I was using it to try to figure out like the when I was doing the math for Ricky and Rio and Michael Thorbjornsen, like figuring out what they might need to get into the Masters, like in OWGR positioning, what type of finish they might need. And to do so, I had to like mix and match the names that OWGR uses versus what like Data Golf uses.
Right.
And
Mm,
OWGR also calls him John Kiefer and does not call him. And they actually just take out by Rico Hoey is Richard Hoey in OWGR. Zach Bouchu is Zachary. It's all Mac Meissner is McClure Meissner, which that was news to me. Vince Whaley is Vincent. Chris Ventura is Christopher.
well, they don't call him Rick Fowler, do they?
Richard,
He might be Richard Fowler. Look, I feel like once you get to a certain level of fame, maybe they don't do that anymore. It's a
Yeah.
good question, though. I'm curious if
where's
maybe
it?
he is.
How far down is Eldrick these days?
Oh God,
Oh boy.
no, he's Ricky. Ricky is Ricky. I wonder if he's just Ricky on the birth certificate.
It has to be
It's
because he's got that
Rick.
IE instead of
Yeah,
the Y. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not even Ricky.
Yeah.
Man probably came out of the womb wearing orange.
Yeah, no doubt.
Tiger Woods is current. What do you think Tiger Woods' current OWGR rank is?
5,462.
There's
Kyle, you
not
got any?
5,000 guys ranked. No way. I was gonna say like 450 or something.
No, it's
Three.
3,736.
Okay.
They have that many people ranked for what? Will, are you ranked on that? I mean,
No,
who are we
no.
ranking in the
Well, the issue
5,000s?
is
That's
the way it works
crazy.
is it's like a rolling 2 year finishes, and obviously his only past 2 years are the Open, the U.S. Open, the PGA, and the Masters, and he missed the cut in three of those and finished 60th in one of them. So that's not going to do great things for
Yeah.
for your OWGR position.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, that's interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that far out. But
Okay. Well, we will have our official picks, obviously. I think Nick's going with Spieth, Will's going with Ludwig, and I'm still deciding, and my
and
pick's the
it's
only one that really matters. So you'll have to
yeah,
wait for our
the people are really
socials.
only listening to you, Kyle.
Yeah,
Right.
as Will said, it's really hard to just pick out of a group of 100-ish guys to win, as you guys have been on full display this year. Very hard to do that. Takes a
So
certain
do,
level of wisdom and knowledge to be able
so
to do
do.
that. Okay, you guys ready to move on to some of the other tournaments this week?
Uh, yeah, there was one thing funny that I forgot to tell you guys. I was looking at we post on TikTok and do like the a couple guys I like this week or whatever. Last week it went pretty well. I had, Goddard up, Nikolai and Jake Knapp in there. And then the one comment we got on that video was, I really like Gary Woodland this week.
Oh,
I was like,
wow.
where were you, man? What did you
Oh,
know?
Damn.
man. Great
Should have listened
shout.
to him. Should have listened to
Yeah.
him on, next time. If he comments again, I'll make sure to make a whole thing of it. We can
Yeah.
figure
Oh,
out
my
who his
God.
picks are. We'll call him into the show.
Oh, that's awesome. That is a great
I
shout.
love that.
Okay. LPGA Tour is in Vegas this week. Shadow
Yes.
Creek. What do we got for
Mhm.
that?
Not a ton. It's the Ramco Championship. It's technically or ARAMCO. I think I'm going with a Ramco though. It is the inaugural event technically, or inaugural year for this event technically,
Mm.
although Shadow Creek has hosted an event at the same time. It previously was the Bank of Hope slash, then it became the T-Mobile match play. That was between 2021 and 2025. So just looking at that, defending champion is Madeline Sagstrom, if you want to count that as defending champion. Um, Nelly Korda won it in 2024. Hyoju Kim, who might be the greatest golfer of all time, does not have a great history here. Her best finish at the match play, at least, was T17. Obviously, match play is very different than stroke play, so grain of salt. But um, it did technically, I forgot that this happened, but the Shadow Creek played host to the CJ Cup when the PGA Tour was unable to fly to South Korea, where it is typically played in the midst of COVID. I believe Jason Kokrak won that, maybe. Don't get mad at me if I'm wrong about that, but I'm pretty
Sounds
sure.
right.
And at that point, that this is a nothing burger, but it favored longer hitters and there was not much emphasis on putting. So that's kind of all I've got for the LPGA tour. We'll see if, Hyoju Kim can go three-peat. Let's see it. Why not? But it's a good chance considering Nelly has good course experience here for her to kind of get the monkey off her back and get a win after two straight runner-ups to Hyoju Kim.
It's never a bad pick.
No,
Never.
I
Yeah.
pretty
mean, I
safe bet.
mean, yeah. Okay. How about Corn Ferry Tour in Florida?
Yeah, again, not a ton. It's the Lacombe or LECOM, whichever you want. Lacombe Suncoast Classic. It's at Lakewood National Golf Club in Florida. The only fun, I'm sure it'll be a great tournament. The fun little storylines I had were that Miles Russell, obviously we talked about this on Monday's episode, is back. He was supposed to caddy for asterisk tally at the Augusta National Women's Amateur, which we will get to in a moment. But he was just too good at golf and decided to be T15 last week at the Club Car Championship on the Corn Ferry Tour. So he is back. He's joined by another 17-year-old amateur, Lucas Jimenez, who's in through a sponsor exemption by winning the 100th New Year's Invitational at St. Petersburg Country Club. And the only other fun tidbit I had is that there's a father-son duo in the field, which I don't know how often that has happened, but Scott Gachewski, who was the 2023 winner of the Lacombe Suncoast Classic, and his son, who is a rookie on the Corn Ferry Tour, Luke Gachewski, will both be in the field this week. And Luke has made the cut in two or three starts this year, so maybe they will both be performing really well. It would be pretty cool to have a little father-son duo story going in the top 20 of a Corn Ferry Tour event. So keep an eye on that. But yeah, those are really the main takeaways I had looking through this one.
Yeah, it is pretty cool, actually. Okay, and then we will finish up with the seventh edition of the Augusta National Women's Amateur, which begins Wednesday. Nick, what do you got for us on that?
Yeah, so this is by far one of the coolest women's amateur championships in the world. So it is the top 72 women's amateur golfers made up of a mix of champions from various amateur championships that have qualified for the event, as well as the other top ranked players in the World Amateur Golf rankings that are not otherwise already exempt from those champions. And so they're basically the way the week works is that they play the first two rounds at the time we're recording this on Tuesday. When this will publish, it'll be on Wednesday. So they play Wednesday and Thursday at the Champions Retreat Club in Augusta, Georgia. And then on Friday, everybody in the tournament plays a practice round at Augusta National. It used to be the top
Hmm.
30 that made the cut would get the practice round, but now everybody gets to play Augusta, which is just a great experience for everybody. And then the final round takes place on Saturday at Augusta National. And so it's one of the we get to see Augusta in sort of pre-Masters form, just kind of like ramp up and get some action right before the players get there for the Masters, and it's always a very interesting year, or very interesting tournament. I'm sorry. And so just getting into some of the players that I think are really players that are good to watch. Obviously, Will, you already mentioned Asterix Tally, who has is in need of a new caddy. I'm not sure if she found one just yet, but she will be playing in her third Augusta National Women's Amateur, and she's only 17 years old.
That's
Um,
ridiculous.
she she fired, and that's not even the craziest age in this field. This is an amazing tournament. But so last year she fired a 68 in her final round and really sort of was in contention to win, but ultimately missed out. Carla Bernat Scudder ended up winning the tournament, matching. She also fired a 68 in her final round as well. But Asterix Tally is one of the best amateur women's golfers in the game right now. I believe she's committed to Stanford, which I'll get to a little bit later in this segment. But so Asterix Tally, definitely someone I want to keep an eye on. There's also Kiara Romero. She's the number one ranked golfer in Wagger. She is currently playing at Oregon. She has two collegiate wins this year and two runner-up finishes. She's already played in major championships I guess not on the LPGA, but she's already played on professional major championships. She's someone that is one of the best amateur golfers in the game right now, someone that is in contention to win her collegiate events almost every time she plays, and one of the best players in the world right now. Then you have the 2022 champion Anna Davis, who won the event at only 16 years old and is currently playing at Auburn right now. At this point, she's played in just about every single amateur championship that you can, including the Arnold Palmer Cup, the Junior Solheim Cup, obviously women's amateurs. She's one of the most accomplished amateur golfers right now. Then you have Maria Jose Marin, who currently is the top ranked collegiate player in the NCAA with the scoreboard rankings. She's currently playing at Arkansas and is the 2025 NCAA individual champion and is currently ranked number 7 in Wagger. Then you have Farah O'Keefe from Texas. And I mean, I know I keep saying that I keep saying everybody is one of the best, either collegiate or amateur golfers in the world right now, but this one, I really mean it. She has 3 wins for Texas in the spring season alone. So just dating back to January, she has 3 wins already. She has yet to finish outside the top 10 in a single event, and 18 of her 21 rounds are under par this year. And I believe her scoring average is 67.5 adjusted, I think. And then I have to give my props to Stanford women's golf, just an absolute powerhouse of a program. Their entire starting five is in the field this week, which is absolutely absurd. They have, I believe it's 8 players that are either committed to, have played, or are currently playing at Stanford that are in the field. And so let me just run through these players. So you have Mega Gane, who is a senior. She is the reigning U.S. Women's Amateur Champion. You have Maya Ortegren, Paula Martin San Pedro, who is the 2025 Women's Amateur Champion in Scotland, Andrea Revuelta, and Kelly Shu as well. And you have so Gane, she set the Champions Retreat scoring record with a 63 in her first round last year. One of the best players for Stanford. Stanford is they're just an absolute powerhouse of an NCAA program. Out of last year, they did not lose a single regular season tournament they played in. They won their regional, they won their sectional. The only loss came to the hands of our Northwestern Wildcats in an absolute historic match play, NCAA championships. And two of those Wildcats are in the field this week. We have Ashley Yoon, the junior, who last year was uh, let me just make sure I got this. She was a third team All American at, according to Golf Week, and a WGCA All American honorable mention. And then she's joined in the field by Deanna Lee, who's a senior. Both Yoon and Lee were Big Ten Freshman of the Year, all conference players as well. And Deanna, especially, she's been playing some of her best golf in her career so far. She took her she took her second career win. So she won last year in Phoenix for her first career win, and then this year she won the East Lake Cup. It was her and Kiara Romero were one of two players to finish the tournament. It was played at East Lake, obviously, and it was just an absolute downpour, cold weather. The tournament actually ended up getting shortened to 9 holes because the weather was just so bad. There was I think like a 5 hour rain delay. And so Diana ended up, I think she shot two under par, and it was her and Kiara Romero were the only players to actually finish under par. Um, and then this year she won the Spartan Suncoast Invitational as well. So she has 2 wins on the year. She's one of the best players on Northwestern right now. And so we got our two cats in the field, and we'll be pulling for them.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's such a cool tournament for
And
them to.
it is on Golf Channel as well. So we'll get to
I was going to
watch,
say,
we'll get to
yeah,
see Augusta in prime form.
the coverage. I think I'm looking at it on their website right now. The Golf Channel coverage on Wednesday is 1 to 3:30. It is the same on Thursday, and then the Saturday final round is on NBC actually from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern.
Perfect.
So that is East. All of that was Eastern time. So plenty of opportunity to watch this live. Yeah, it'll be great. It is an awesome, awesome tournament, and it's your first, real glimpse of competitive Augusta National in 2026. So if you're itching for the Masters and the Valero isn't quite doing it for you, then flip over on Saturday during that window to catch it on NBC, and you'll get a good glimpse of what's to come next week.
Yeah, speaking of then, for our next on the tee, our schedule coming up for this week as well, leading into Masters next week. Will, what can you tell us about a little extra content we got going?
Yeah, so we thought, since the Masters field and as is the case with a lot of major championships, it comes from a lot of different places. It's not really, just the typical PGA Tour field that gets cut down or signature event field that is, the top X amount of golfers. So to help understand the field a little bit and just to kind of talk about some players that we don't always get the chance to talk about, we thought it would be fun to kind of break up. We'll do our normal segment next week on, the full Masters preview next Wednesday, kind of talking more about our picks, what we like, who we think is in the form to actually walk away with a win or perform really well. But we also wanted to talk a little bit about, the amateur champions in the field. So this is a little up in the air, but this is the current plan. On Friday, we are hoping to come to you with the first iteration of that, which would be a probably a slightly shorter episode, but we'll talk about some of the amateur champions that are in the Masters field, and obviously that is like comprised of, you know, the amateur champions around the world who I'm struggling to pull up. Here we go. The U.S. amateur champion and runner-up, which is Mason Howell, who won, and Jackson Harrington. The British Am champion, Ethan Fang. Asian Pacific amateur champion, FIFA Laupakti. I apologize if I am mispronouncing that. The LATAM champion, Matteo Pulcini, and the U.S. Mid-Am champ, Brandon Holtz. So there are some names that you don't really get the opportunity to talk about a ton, but are really interesting and have cool career paths. And you never know who might perform, what amateur might be the low am at the Masters, who might make the cut, who might perform well and kind of shock the world a little bit. And then we're going to come to you Sunday, hopefully, with a little bit of a maybe more regular length episode about some of the returning champions who obviously range from guys like Rory McIlroy, Jordan Spieth, etc., to some, older names that typically are in the field, like Jose Maria Olazabal, who won in 94 and 99, Vijay Singh, who won in 2000, Mike Weir, who won in 2003, et cetera, et cetera. Not going to go down the whole list, but just it gives us a good opportunity to get to know these guys better than we might otherwise. And we don't get a chance to talk a ton of history. Just, right now we do a lot of preview and review and we don't get a ton of chance to look back into the past at some of the guys that won in the 90s and the early 2000s and kind of talk career path and where they're at now. So that's always exciting. We'll get that to you over the weekend. And then yeah, like I said, next week we're gonna, maybe we'll spice in a little extra content here or there. There will definitely be extra content, out on our social media channels, I'm sure, which I know Kyle was going to tell you, so I'm stealing his thunder a little bit. But out on Instagram, on TikTok, we'll be putting some stuff out. We'll be very active on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And we will come to you next week with normal episodes on Monday to recap the Valero. Maybe we have some real exciting drama, somebody coming out of nowhere to find their way into Augusta that we didn't expect. Maybe Ricky Fowler's top three. Maybe we get the Jordan Spieth one, Rio Satsune two, Ricky Fowler three
The dream.
trifecta, and
That'd be
everybody's
awesome.
everybody's in. Yeah, so we'll come to you with some normal stuff next week, and next Wednesday, obviously, we will have our big full Masters preview to make our official picks, which we might be it's going to be tough to narrow it down to one guy and really settle on it, but we'll figure something out there. We'll get there. So there's going to be a lot of content coming over the next 7 days, and a week from today, a week from the day that this episode airs, we are going to be a morning away from the Masters at Augusta, which is wild to think about.
Never been more excited.
Hello, friends. Can't wait for
Oh,
it. Okay, so like Will said, our Twitter is at Center Cut Pod, so keep an eye out for that for our picks for Valero this week, and then we're gonna be churning out more stuff there. Instagram and TikTok at centercup.pod. You can email us at centercup.pod@yahoo.com, and we will be back with you hopefully at the end of this week. Any final words, gentlemen?
I'll see
wonderful. Also, have a
you.
great
I'll
week.
see you on Monday to prove you wrong, Kyle.
God, I hope for your mental state that we can get Jordan Spieth to win one of these days.
One day.
It could happen. You never know. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. We will catch you next time.